All right, this watch retails for $450. It was a watch that I really wanted, but it was outside of my price range, but I actually managed to pick it up brand new for $280. This was one of my earliest Grail watches. It's a watch from Momentum Watches, and the retail price for it was about $500. I was able to get it for $130. And today I'm going to show you guys how I find deals like these on watches. Hey guys, this is Dave. Welcome back to Just the Watch. And today I'm going to share with you guys just some of my strategies for finding good deals on watches. And I rarely pay full price for a watch because finding a good value is something that is actually really important to me. And so now this kind of strategy that I'm going to talk about is not a surefire way. There's no way to just go out and just automatically save hundreds of dollars off any watch you want. But if you're in a certain phase of your collection, and if you're not necessarily laser focused on certain pieces, but you're able to have a little bit of a broader perspective, if finding a good value is something that is part of the collecting process that you really like, then this is something that will work for you. This is maybe going to be a little bit controversial. I think some people are going to hear how I buy watches and maybe be a little bit horrified because it's not as pure into the watch collecting. There is definitely something to be said for having these pieces that you research and you want and focusing just on those. And for the most part, if that's where you are, if there's like this one piece that you want, a lot of times there's not going to be shortcuts to getting it. You've just got to save up and get it. But again, if you have a little bit broader perspective, and if you're okay waiting on those Grail pieces to take advantage of some good deals that are out there, I think there are some ways where you can find some pretty good deals on watches. And these are the watches I'm going to show you guys today. These are all watches that I really like, that I really enjoy, that I have no regrets purchasing. And I'm going to share you guys 3 steps to kind of my process of finding these kinds of deals. Okay, so step number 1 is to do your homework. What I try and do is to do a lot of research into the kinds of watches that I think there will be good deals on. Watches from really popular brands like Seiko very rarely are going to drop in price. The price is fairly static, but there are a lot of watches, particularly on the gray market, where the prices will fluctuate wildly. And sometimes these watches are actually really good watches that are really well reviewed. And so that's the first step, is to try and identify these watches that have these kind of prices that are going to fluctuate, that you can get a good deal on. So a couple of things you want to look for is you want to look out for brands that have a good reputation, but they're not necessarily super popular. Because a lot of times these brands they'll release a really cool watch at a high retail price. It'll sell at the retail price for a while, and then the price will really crash later on. And that, I think, is a great opportunity for finding a good deal. You want to look for watches that are well reviewed. You don't want to get a watch that crashed in price because it was a bad watch. You want to find ones that are that have good reviews. So do your research on that. And finally, you want to find watches that are interesting to you. Look for a watch that you think, that watch looks amazing, but it's too expensive, I can't afford it. But if it were cheaper, I would definitely buy it. If you can identify watches in that criteria, start kind of making either a mental list or an actual list, and have this list of watches that you're interested in that are kind of from these sorts of brands that you think the price might fluctuate on. And then, that's the first step, is to do your homework and to make that list. A few suggestions for brands that are like this I always like to keep an eye on are definitely Orient, Citizen. Bulova a lot of times has some good deals where the watch prices will fluctuate a lot. And then smaller brands like Laco as well. Sometimes they're going to have some good deals out there too. Get to know the different brands that are out there, and again, start making that kind of mental list of watches that you're interested in, that look like good watches that you think could find a good deal. So one example of that is my Orient Star Sports Outdoor, which I recently reviewed. This is a watch that when I saw it released, I just loved everything about it. I loved the dial layout, the design. I had a good respect for Orient, and I had been really interested in checking out their Orient Star line. But the retail price was around $650, and that was way over budget. I couldn't afford anything like that, and I sort of set it aside. But eventually the price dropped on these in Japan, and I was able to pick it up for $350. And so as soon as I saw that price, I immediately jumped on it and bought it, and I've been really happy with the watch. This is kind of one example of these kinds of watches where, a lot of times Orient, the prices fluctuate like that, and you can get pretty good deals on them. Okay, step number 2 is to kind of get to know some of the outlets that are out there. Look at different websites and get to know their pricing. Kind of start to have a list of websites and places that you check often, particularly looking at those watches that are on your list, and get to know what the prices are so that when they drop you can recognize it, so that you can recognize when there's a good deal. Some of the best websites out there for that are gray market websites. Particularly Amazon and JomaShop are two of the best ones that I have used, and Amazon's probably the best because now there's so many different sellers on Amazon that a lot of times the prices are going to fluctuate a lot. There might be a seller who gets in a big stock that needs to unload it, and they're going to slash the prices, and there'll be a really low price on a watch for like a week or so. So if you're kind of aware of that, if you're making wish lists, and if you're kind of checking that just on a regular basis, you'll be able to know when a good price is there. And you'll be able to jump on it when it happens, because a lot of times the prices fluctuate and they might drop for like a week or so and then they'll go back up. And the best thing about this is if you can get one of these watches at that lower price, you have a pretty good chance of selling it off at closer to the retail price later on if you need to. So if you don't like it, being able to get a watch at a couple $100 cheaper than you normally would gives you the flexibility to kind of sell it off again and not lose too much money. So I think that's a great way to do it. Obviously, you also want to be checking eBay, but I think everybody kind of has in their mind these sort of different sites that they're familiar with and that they frequent. One really interesting one that I got a pretty good deal on, and actually that's how I got the Laco 1925, was by going on the Watch Gang wheel, which is really, I know a lot of people are going to hate that I even did that or mentioned that because Watch Gang is pretty controversial. I had a Watch Gang subscription for a couple months when I first started collecting. It wasn't for me, but I didn't have any issues with them. But because I had an inactive subscription, that gave me access to their wheel, which is something that's really interesting. And I got this Jack Mason Aviator from the wheel as well. This one typically retails for about $150, and I got it for I think $75, so like half price on that. And this is one of those watches that I saw early on. I loved. I'm like, that's too expensive for a quartz piece for me. I don't feel like paying that much. But at $75, I really jumped on it. The way the Watch Gang wheel works is you pay to spin the wheel. So in this case, I paid $75 to spin the wheel, and you get whichever watch the wheel lands on. But the way it works is you pick which watches you want on the wheel. So you start at the cheapest tier, and in this case, the cheapest watch that I would have gotten would have been this one, which is the one that I wanted. And then you can populate it with higher priced watches. So it's kind of like a fun little gimmick. But if you do it right, you kind of know what you're getting into, and it's not like this random weird thing. So I kind of had a pretty good idea that I was going to get this watch. I did. I was happy. It was fun, and I got a great deal. All right, step number 3. Try your hardest not to buy anything. And this might be the hardest one, but this is kind of where this comes in, and this is how I determine when to actually pull the trigger, is I just try not to buy it. And I wait until it's like, okay, this deal is so good, I can't pass it up. And I've got the money saved up. And so that's kind of the idea. It's like until you hit that point, just kind of be saving up your money, be doing your research, be keeping an eye on what's out there, and have, again, this sort of list of watches in mind that you're interested in, that you really want to check out, and wait for one of them to drop in price, because inevitably it'll happen. Inevitably, if you've got a broad enough list, and if these are all watches you're interested, the prices are going to fluctuate and they're going to drop. And I've seen that happen over and over again as I've been watch collecting. And almost every time I buy a watch, this is how I do it. And I know that this is, like, again, kind of a controversial thing, because there are watches that I have not been able to get that I really want because I've been distracted by these other ones that are cheaper. But I have no regrets with that. I've really been enjoying it. And at this stage of my collection has really been about trying to figure out which watches I like and experience different ones and test them out. And so this has been great for me. I think there probably will be a point in my collecting where I'll start to get that kind of laser focus and be like, okay, I've got to stop doing this now and just bite the bullet and save up and buy the watches that I think I really am interested in and pay the money for. But if you're not at that point yet, and if you don't know which watches you want, I think this is a great way to do it. Another final example is this Citizen Bryson chronograph. Again, when I first started looking at this watch, I really liked it. I liked the design. I think it was retailing for about $250 on Amazon, so I just kind of shelved it. But it was one of those watches that was always in the back of my mind. And eventually the price on this watch dropped. I think I picked it up for about $130, and I've been incredibly happy with it. It's just a really fun, great watch, and at that price, it's a great price to get it. So there you have it. There's my strategy for buying watches, and that's how I buy the majority of my watches when I'm actually out there buying. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. If this is something that you guys have done similar things, let me know what's on your list of watches, or if you have any recommendations for brands that kind of have that volatile pricing, that are like reputable, good, decent brands that the price fluctuates a lot on, or sites and sellers that you have used and are comfortable with. Yeah, drop me comments down below. Maybe we can build a little bit of advice down the comment section here and help people out who are looking for these kinds of deals. But yeah, that's sort of my strategy, and hopefully that helps you guys out as you're trying to figure out how to find good deals on watches, because there are a lot of great deals out there. Again, particularly if you're not laser focused on just getting a certain piece, and you have kind of an ability to have a broad horizon on which watches you're willing to pay for. That'll do it for today. Thanks you guys for watching, and we'll see you later. Bye.